What would happen if you were growing up in the 60s and you had to take refuge in a bomb shelter or a nuclear fallout shelter or something like that? And it opened in the 90s, and well, you fell in love with someone who was, well, just being so big in the 90s. Well, you're about to see what happens as I'm going to talk about a film that celebrates its 25th anniversary this year, actually today, Blast from the Past. Bad days, entertainment rankings and reviews. So, greetings, my fellow YouTubers, and welcome to Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. My name is Doyle, better known to you as the Big D, and this time around I bring to you a review of the 1999 rom-com sci-fi flick Blast from the Past, released by New Line Cinema, directed and co-produced by Hugh Wilson. That's the guy who created WKRP in Cincinnati, based on a story by himself, who co-wrote the screenplay with Bill Kelly, starring Brendan Fraser, Alicia Silverstone, Christopher Walken, Sissy Spacek, and Dave Foley. It focuses on a guy named Alan Weber who was born and brought up in a Cold War era fallout shelter built by his survivalist, anti communist father. And after 35 years, he emerges into the modern world where his innocence and old fashioned views put him at comedic odds with others. This film may have gotten mixed reviews, but unfortunately, it was a slight disappointment at the box office, even though it did just slightly make okay over its budget and what have you. So, anyway, I've seen this film. This is sort of a fan requested vid. I do believe, well, one of my friends on Facebook requested this, so I'm sorry it took so long, but anyway, today is actually the film's 25th anniversary. The film was released on February 12th, 1999. Henceforth, today is the 25th anniversary. And despite this film didn't do so well, the heck with it. I'm going to give you the story anyway, because I've seen this film several times. In 1962, eccentric American scientist Dr. Calvin Weber believes nuclear war with the Soviet Union is imminent and builds a secret fallout shelter beneath his backyard. Alarmed by the Cuban Missile Crisis, Calvin takes his pregnant wife Helen into the shelter. When an unexpected mechanical failure aboard an F 86 Sabre causes the aircraft to crash into the house above, Calvin assumes the worst and activates the shelter's time locks for 35 years. With the house completely destroyed by the crash, the Webbers' neighbors and authorities assume they were killed and their property is left abandoned. Helen gives birth to Adam, who is educated to a high standard by his father, including becoming fluent in several languages, and grows up on 1950s era pop culture like I Love Lucy and The Honeymooners, and pop standards by Perry Como and Dean Martin. Above ground, a diner opens in 1965 where a young resident named Melker gets his first job working as a soda jerk. The diner is sold and turned into a pizzeria, then becomes a punk club named Purgatory as the suburban neighborhood deteriorates over the decades into an inner city ghetto. By 1995, Melker is a bitter, middle aged alcoholic living in the club's condemned remains. When the shelter unlocks in 1997, Calvin mistakes the now blighted neighborhood for a post apocalyptic wasteland of irradiated mutants and decides the family must stay underground over the objections of Helen, who, unlike Calvin, who enjoys the seclusion, and Am, who knows nothing else, has never taken to living in the shelter. With supplies running out and Calvin falling ill, Am leaves the shelter for the first time to obtain food. He meets Melker, who had encountered Calvin the previous night, bursting through the floor in his radiation suit. The old man convinces himself that Am is a god. Marveling at the outside world, Am purchases supplies but then cannot remember his way back to the elevator. Trying to sell his father's classic baseball cards at a hobby shop, Am meets Eve Rustikov, who stops the store owner, from cheating M and is fired. Eve drives M to a Holiday Inn in exchange for a rare card, but returns the next morning out of guilt. M asks her to help him. Unaware of the value of money, M agrees to her request for $1,000 a week, while also asking Eve to help him find a wife who is not a mutant and is from Pasadena, California, per his mother's advice. M meets Eve's gay housemate and best friend Troy, who provides him with advice and a fashion makeover. Even Troy take Am to a 40s swing style nightclub to find him a wife. Am attracts the attention of several women, including Eve's nemesis, Sophie. Jealous, Eve reconnects with her ex boyfriend Cliff and gets him to provoke Am into a fight, relenting when Am demonstrates his boxing skills, having trained every day with his father. Eve is disgusted and goes home. Troy later tells her Am left the club with Sophie. Am returns explaining that he politely rejected Sophie's advances as he could only think about Eve. So they kiss, but when Am admits the truth about his past and his desire to take her to be his wife underground, she asks him to leave. Finding the club where Melker has recruited a full congregation to worship him, Am returns to Eve's house where she is waiting with psychiatrist Dr. Nina Aron and her assistant to have him committed. Initially cooperating, Adam escapes, though not before asking Eve and Troy to collect his things and pay his hotel bill. In his hotel room, Troy and Eve find toiletries and clothing from the 60s and absurdly valuable stock certificates in companies like IBM, which Calvin had previously ran off as worthless and deduced that Adam is not crazy and was telling the truth the whole time. Now for the ending, you know the procedure. 5 seconds to stop this video. Go to the description box below. Fast forward to the time below. As I count down, if you've seen the movie already, please continue. Okay, you've been warned. As Melker and his cult load supplies into the shelter, Calvin prepares to seal his family inside again. Eve spots Am outside the club. They embrace, and Am takes her to meet his parents. Impressed with Eve, Calvin and Helen agree to set the shelter's locks for 2 months while Adam and Eve make arrangements. During this time, Adam and Eve sell the stocks to build his parents a new home in the country, identical to their house that was destroyed, and purchase and restore a red 1960 Cadillac convertible to help Melker rebuild the pub into a 50s themed nightclub after convincing him that Am is not God. Am reveals to his father there was never an atomic war and that the Soviet Union collapsed peacefully, ending the Cold War. Unconvinced, Calvin plans to to build a new fallout shelter as Eve watches while playing with her engagement ring. End of story. So, what did I think of Blast from the Past? Well, I revisited this film last year, I believe, and I'm gonna say it's as good as I remember. I watched this several times when it aired on the Stars Network, and let me tell you, I really did enjoy for what it had to offer. It also has some pretty good tunes as well. Some of the classics and some of the new, types of tunes and what have you. Steve Dorff does the score for the film, which is pretty good. While this film kind of did factually end up was factually a box office disappointment, it still did okay. It went on to make 40 million worldwide against its $35 million budget, but it only grossed 26 million in the U.S. Anyway, the film was mixed. Well, reviews were mixed. The film sits at 58% on Rotten Tomatoes, saying it's a cute idea but not consistently funny. However, Roger Ebert said the movie is funny and entertaining in all the usual ways, yes, but I was grateful that it tried for more, that it was actually about something, that it had an original premise, that it used satire and irony and had sly undercurrents. Well, yes, I agree with that. I don't care if this was, well, what they said. I thought it was pretty fun and what have you, what it had to offer. everything. Anyway, I thought it was pretty good. So anyway, so you know that the story was actually pretty good. Hugh Wilson's direction wasn't too bad either. Now the now playing Adam is Brendan Fraser, who after this did another film Wilson directed, and that was Dudley Do Right, which was released the same year. Uh, a couple, I think it was a couple months later, but I could be wrong. But anyway, yeah, but I will say I give him credit for this film and what have you. Of course, he also did The Mummy as well that same year. That's a film I have yet to review, but rest assured I'll give you a review of that later in the year when its anniversary rolls around. I promise. But anyway, he's really good in this film. Alicia Silverstone plays Eve, and I'm gonna say this is a real great performance of hers. I think this is probably one of her great roles. Maybe aside from seeing her in Clueless, or which that film I still have yet to review that. Hopefully, when next year comes, mind you, I will definitely review that. I can guarantee you that. As long as I keep my stuff a going, you know what I'm saying? Good. But anyway, her performance as Eve was really good. Christopher Walken plays Calvin, and I'm going to say he's good in this role. And Sissy Spacek plays Helen, and I'm saying she's very good as well. Let's see, Troy is played by Dave Foley. And I'm going to say he's pretty good. Joy Slotnick plays the soda jerk as he's credited as, but it's really Melker. Of course, he had recently appeared in Twister, and the following year he would be in Hollow Man. Let's see. Yeah, what can I say? And Hugh Wilson actually does have a little appearance in this film as well. So, anyway, the cast isn't too bad. So overall, with everything I've said, I think Blast from the Past, this is a very underrated film and what have you. That I think it has become a cult classic in my opinion. But you don't have to take my word for it, considering it was a box office disappointment. But even so, Blast from the Past was just so awesome and what have you. I mean, with it having they have 60s clashing with the 90s. Well, the first time I've seen that since the Brady Bunch movie, or a very Brady sequel. That was, well, 60s and 70s. That was the Brady's. Duh. Anyway, like I said, I think you'll really like this film if you give it a try. I think I would recommend you give this a one-time watch. Definitely. So anyway, Blast from the Past, I really liked it. So what did you think of Blast from the Past? Let me know in the comment section below. If you liked the video, click the like button, subscribe, and be a part of the Big D Nation. Join me next time when I bring to you a review of Isn't It Romantic? So if you like this, consider checking out my reviews for these other Brendan Fraser films. In the upper left-hand corner is my review of, well, of a very funny film he did a couple of years before, and that was George of the Jungle. The upper right hand corner is my review of the Dazzled remake from 2000. Or if you like, just for the fun of it, see my review of Dudley Do Right in the bottom left hand corner. And the bottom right hand corner is the button you can click to subscribe. If you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc., then I'm your guy. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya.